Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Patriot Fist, and this is my first movie review, and our first review is going to be about Justice League. Let's do it. Just a warning, this will be a spoiler review, I guess. There's going to be parts of the movie that I talk about, so if you haven't seen the movie, go see it, come back, watch this video, have a good time. What are my initial thoughts? I really liked the movie. Before we get into spoilers or talking about anything specific, I really liked the movie. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was a ton of just crazy action, which I know some people are kind of weird about these days, but I still like super crazy action. I still think it's awesome to see giant CGI cartoons like throw punches at each other. I don't see a problem with that. I had a lot of fun. I thought the first act was a little bit slow. You know, the whole thing of like, hey, here's the problem. Let's get the team together to start fixing this problem was a little bit slow. It wasn't terrible. Like I said, there was just a lot of bring us in. Come on, like you know why I'm here. Just bring me in and get me going into the action. All right. I know, and it's a simple plot, really. It's a simple like, hey, there's a bad guy. It's Saturday morning. I'm sitting in my living room. I'm watching TV, and the superheroes are about to fight the bad guy. That's pretty much the plot of this movie. It's not a big deal. Another weird thing about this movie is that Superman was supposed to be alive in the end credits scene of BVS, but for now he's not alive, and we need to put him in super alien goop in order to make him alive now. None of that made sense. I don't understand why that couldn't be brought back together with that. Like, what's with someone explain to me why the earth around Clark Kent's gravesite seems to just rise up out of the ground. I don't get that. That doesn't make any sense, and I'm pretty sure it's just never going to be spoken about again. Another weird thing with Superman is that Batman is apparently super bros with him all of a sudden. Like, if you think about the way that Batman thought about Superman in BVS, in Batman vs. Superman, he hated him. He wanted him dead. He literally made a weapon specifically to kill him. It doesn't work on anybody else unless they're susceptible to stabbing, which is most people. But he made it specifically for him, right? And so now all of a sudden he's like, no, he's Hope, he's the best, we gotta bring him back. And part of me is kind of like, didn't you hate this guy like 15 minutes ago? I don't know. That brings me to our next problem, which is continuity errors, right? I just talked about it a second ago, but what's the deal with, like, you've got timing between BVS and Justice League and Suicide Squad, and none of it totally fits together. It's all just almost there, but not quite enough that you notice it all the time. I just wish that they had taken just a little bit more time, and maybe going into the future, we're going to see a lot more care taken to that, or just a lot less. I don't know. It's probably going to be one or the other. One of the problems I have heard about this is that the story is too simple. And like I said earlier, I don't think that's the case. I think that the story was exactly what it was supposed to be. They said, okay, we've been way too hard and gritty and we need to back it up. Let's go back to Saturday morning cartoons, bad guy doing a bad thing, team of superheroes needs to stop him. Done and done and done, done. The CGI was a little bit rough, and I don't mean rough like it was bad, right? It was awesome. The whole movie was fun, but it's a $30 million movie. This is a very expensive movie. What are we doing with like weird face stuff? Just shave his face. Put it. The beard would be so much easier to put back on. For if you don't know what I'm talking about, Henry Cavill has a beard right now. He's got a giant, awesome mustache, but Paramount, who is the reason he has this mustache for a movie that they're doing right now, said that he could not shave it for the reshoot. So he went on stage, did the shoots with this beard, and they CGI'd skin onto his beard. It would be so much easier to do the exact opposite. Just shave it and put the beard on afterwards. I don't get it. Whatever. It doesn't make any sense to me. The other thing is Cyborg, and we're going to talk a little bit more about him later, but you can totally, first of all, he's a robot, right? And we don't really have robots that look like Cyborg in real life, so obviously he's made of CGI, and that's not a bad thing. It's just very noticeable. You know that he's not a person who is a robot. And that's okay. Like I said, this is Saturday morning cartoons that we're watching. It's supposed to be fun. The Superman scene where he fights the Justice League is one of the coolest scenes that I have seen from the DCEU so far, especially when he looks at the Flash. Like, you've got all of the rest of the Justice League coming at him, he's holding him back, and then the Flash comes running around and all you see is Superman go, and he's watching him. And then you look back and the Flash is like, how do you see me right now? Oh my gosh. And it's nuts. I was freaking out in the theater. Then the whole section where the Flash is basically just trying to get away from Superman as he's hitting him at almost the same speed that the Flash is, it was awesome. Next up, you've got Cyborg. And not a lot of people know that much about Cyborg unless you've watched like Teen Titans. But even then, you don't really know his backstory that much. Cyborg was basically an athlete, just superstar who got in a terrible accident, had most of his body destroyed, and then his father, who is a scientist, used in this version, one of the boxes from the movie, used it as a mother box to put him back together. And he is part machine, part alien machine, in fact. And it was really cool to have them talk about, the different ways that he was moving and how he was getting new things every day, that he was upgrading. And you could even see towards the end of the film that he was learning how to upgrade himself and add in new things. You see he got his like Unibeam, which is an Iron Man reference, but that's exactly what it is. So it was pretty awesome to see him kind of like moving forward as a character. It felt like they were really moving towards the I'm a machine and a man, but I'm more man. And I'd be really interested to see maybe in later movies, if he's in them, to see him like maybe fight between that a little bit. Am I man? Am I a machine? We could find out tons of stuff about that character through that, and I think it'd be awesome. Aquaman. I have been an Aquaman fan for years, even when all the memes were going around with Aquaman standing in the stupid like 2 feet of water, like telling the mugger not to attack the woman, or nothing would happen because I can't get out of the water. I have always liked Aquaman. He's a boss. Super strength. He can talk to fish, which is whatever. But if you watch some of those scenes in the comics where he like sends giant sharks up to like snatch people up out of the sky, it's awesome. It's fantastic. Check it out. I thought he was pretty good. It's awesome to see him portrayed. Just the fact that he is in there is fantastic for me. He was a little bit of a bro, which is okay. But sometimes you're just like, oh yeah, and right, my man, a lot of that stuff. And I wish that they would give him more depth, which is hard in a movie where, you've got like 6 main characters. So hopefully when he gets his own movie, we'll move more in that direction and it can be a lot more in depth. I've heard a lot of people say that they actually thought that the actor who plays the Flash was a little bit off in the way that he chose to play him. First of all, this is a new Flash. Like he's right off the boat, right? Super green, and he's gonna be a little bit weird. Like he doesn't super know how to handle people with his new superpowers. He's not sure, like he said, he doesn't really have his rhythm down yet. And I thought a lot of his moments were super funny. Like that's what brought a lot of the levity into the serious film, was the fact that they brought in this brand new superhero who's just like wide-eyed and like, oh my gosh, what's going on? The other thing to think about with that is that at the end of the day, no matter what the actor does, they take like 20 takes, right? And the editor and the director are the ones who sit down and decide which takes to use. It doesn't really make sense to call out an actor on what they're doing character-wise if at the end of the day, they're not the ones who decide which take to use. There could have been much more subdued takes that were just left on the cutting room floor. Wonder Woman was awesome in this movie, and you can see why. She was the reason for the entire shift in the DC universe, right? Her movie did so well that they said, okay, we've been doing this wrong, let's and change things around a little bit, right? And so you can see that she's definitely, I like a lot of the depth that she brings to this movie. She is making this transition from, I've been hurt hundreds of years ago, and now I am moving forward towards becoming like finally healed from this experience, from losing this loved one from the first movie. And it's awesome. There's actually a scene where Batman kind of gives her a little poke about that, and she ends up kind of hurting him a little bit. But it's awesome to see her kind of moving past that to say, like, hey, I can be a character that you can look up to, that you can see as a woman. If you're a girl, you can be like, man, this is awesome. And even if you're a guy, you know what I mean? You can look up to somebody who is just getting it every day, who knows what they stand for and believes in it wholeheartedly and is good. That brings me to Batman, and that scene where he actually talks about Steve Trevor is one of the scenes that makes Batman Batman in this movie. You can see him using a lot of his intellect in the movie, and that really helps Batman because the fight scenes aren't really his thing. Like, that's awesome. You've got the Nightcrawler, which is like up the wall, and that's super cool, but at the end of the day, he's just a guy, right? And he's rich. That's his superpower. He's rich, and he's pretty smart. And so two big things that I saw from Batman. Number one was getting Wonder Woman to kind of believe in herself, to know that she could do these things again. And number two was the idea to bring back Superman. Now, like I said, that's kind of a weird one. The whole, we're going to put him in goo and the Flash is going to run really fast and touch the mother box and now it's electrified and now you get to come back to life, Superman. But at the end of the day, they did give the credit to Batman, and that's because he's the smartest one on the team. That's the whole reason he's there. The bad guy in this movie is Steppenwolf, and Steppenwolf has gotten a lot of trash during this movie. A lot of people do not like him, and it is a little weird. There are parts when he's like super formidable, like when he just outright just murders a Green Lantern, just like one slash, you're done. Sorry about you. But then later on in the movie, like especially when Superman is in it, there are no problems with them just like taking him down. No, just dismantling him. What? No problem. Break your axe. I don't care. And it just seemed a little weird. It didn't seem like Steppenwolf was the problem. It seemed like the writers were the problem. Like they didn't know really where his power level was. And so sometimes he was super overpowered and sometimes it seemed like he was a little bit underpowered. And I wish that would have just been, I just wish they would have gone up with it. Just have him be strong, right? If he can go a couple rounds with Superman, that's better, right? That makes the stakes higher. Ultimately, I thought he was good, but I wish they would have been a little bit more with it. Last thoughts, I think that this is a pretty good turn from BVS. A lot of people like BVS and a lot of people don't, and they're really taking a hard handbrake turn with this one. I think that we're going to be moving towards definitely a much lighter toned DC universe from here on out. Who knows? A lot of people have been talking about the fact that they might even stop going through the connected universe. Like they're saying, hey, Marvel, you win. We get it. You're doing it great. We're not going to do this anymore. And they might go like, you're still in the universe, but it's just this movie and it's just that movie. And ultimately, I just want to see a good movie, right? I want to see superheroes, but if it's a good movie, that's where you're going to get people to come to the theater. So hopefully they're just good movies. Guys, that's going to do it for my review of Justice League. My rating is a go see it. That'll be my rating, either a go see it or a don't go see it or something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go along. But hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Either way, comment. Let me know what you think. Tell me how I can get better. And think about subscribing. I'll see you in the next one.